Welcome to Tiny Hands Big Dream here in southern Ecuador. I wanted to put up a quick video here talking about a little bit about what's been going on in Ecuador at large and some of what you may have been seeing on the media, on news networks, especially outside of the country. So, to give a little bit of background, a little bit of information, we have a new president here, and basically one of his big points in running was to reduce a lot of the gang violence. There's drug cartels, gangs, whatever you want to call them. It kind of differs depending on how you translate the language. Um, Obviously, they cause problems. It's across the board in the whole world. They're going to cause problems. Now, this is both from the northern border with Colombia, the southern border with Peru. Obviously, all the big cities. There also tends to be more of that activity in port towns and cities along the coast. So those kind of tend to be your hot spots for that. It's been an issue for, gosh, I honestly don't know how long. They have probably been in this country for years upon years. And previous presidents, previous governments have clearly not been able to manage the problem very well. So this president decided to. Whether you like him or not, that's kind of besides the point. But he has done what he said very quickly. So that's always good in the president, I think. So the thing that you'll see a lot in mainstream media is that they're calling it a civil war. I keep seeing, there's a civil war breaking out in Ecuador, which I'm sure that my family and friends in the States are all freaked out about. But it's not a civil war. I think what might be happening is a little bit of a translation error there from what they're calling it in Ecuador might translate into a bit of a civil war in English. But besides the point, it's not a civil war. It is a government trying to take back their country from criminals, which is what a government's supposed to be doing. It is what I believe a president is supposed to be doing. So that's all above board. Everyone's doing the right thing here except for criminals. Criminals will not do the right thing. They have been left to their own devices for far too long in this country, and that means that there's going to be massive pushback from said criminals when a president puts his foot down. And that's what he said. So, I'm not going to get a whole lot into the nitty-gritty details of exactly what has happened. I'm not even sure I know all of it. I know that there have been hostages. I know that there's been a prison break of like one of the main gang leaders. You may have seen the video of the bunch of little baby gangbangers that were taking hostages in the I think it was the news network. There's also the university. If you watch the videos, you can tell they're either wannabes or they're the very low level of the gang. These are not serious criminals. Take that for what you will, but it's not very serious. Those things. I'm not discounting that that's still hostage situations. It's still violent. It's still serious, but for the most part, I'm not worried. A lot of people that I see asking, is Ecuador still safe? Should I still visit? People who are trying to leave, which I don't really see the point. Once you're here, you should just be here. Unless maybe you're in a big city and that feels unsafe to you, then I suppose you could leave. That's on you. That's up to you. Whatever you want to do. What I think is that this is a good thing for Ecuador. You look at this and you think, oh, there's a civil war, there's all this unrest, and that's this huge negative on Ecuador. I think that if you look at the facts and what's really happening, this is actually fantastic for the country. This shows that the president is not only going to stick to his word, he is going to possibly really alter the trajectory of the country. If you can get rid of the gangs, they're really the only issue in this country as far as safety and crime go. Now everything else is petty theft or interpersonal issues. These are not massive crime problems. The crime comes from the gangs, and if he can eradicate the gangs, that's fantastic for this country. So I think it's important to look at it that way. Now, as far as what he's actually done, again, I'm not super up to date or super involved in that. I've looked into a little bit of the information that's out there. The latest news, I know he's put in a lot of protection orders for everyone the upper levels of government to protect them and their families, because obviously they're a target. So I know he's done that, and he's also given the military complete um, complete approval to, as he says, neutralize the gang members, however you want to take that. Which means it's pretty serious. So this is not just, like, oh, we should arrest them, and if it comes to it, and neutralize them in whatever way necessary. He's given the military control over that, which is a pretty big deal. I have zero concerns. There are going to be probably traffic stops more than normal, especially if you're outside of a big city. Where we are, which my friends and my family especially are watching, we're fine. We are so far out, nobody's going to bother us. Nothing affects us like that. I'm not even worried if we were going to go into Loja, which we might do in the near future. We have to go into Zamora as well, and there's no concern whatsoever. We'll probably hit a couple military checkpoints. They'll check our license and move on, and it will be a fantastic day. I know that in all of my Ecuador expat groups and things that I'm part of, there's been a lot of questions of, hey, we're going to travel there in the next weeks, months, and should we cancel, should we postpone, what should we do? I'm a little bit of a mixed opinion on that. Part of me wants to say you'll be totally fine. But if I put myself in their shoes as the worrier that I can be when it comes to traveling, I would say postpone if you can without completely messing up your life. If it messes up your life, I would say still go for it. I'm not actually worried a whole lot about safety as much as just giant hassles. I don't really know what's going to happen in the next week or two. I think that most likely it won't last a long time. Whatever all of this is that's going to happen, I don't think it's going to last months and months and months. That's my feeling. I think this is going to, the worst of it, the parts of it that will affect us living here the most is going to probably be a few weeks, and then I think everything will be fine, and everything else will kind of slowly disseminate through there, depending on how things go. But I would say, if you're going to fly in, you're going to fly into either Guayaquil or Quito, both big cities. I would suggest just being a little cautious. I probably wouldn't go get a hotel outside of the airport. That's what we've typically done. We'll typically do the late night into Quito, and then, I say typically, we've done it. But then go get a hotel somewhere so that we can sleep a few hours before getting the morning flight out to Loja. If you're flying out of the big city, out of the airport, I'd probably just hang out in the airport. The airport's going to be safe. Hang out in the airport, and then catch your flight wherever you're going. I wouldn't be too worried. You're okay, but I wouldn't honestly be too worried if you're staying in the airport and then catching a flight back out. You'll be fine. If you're going to stay in a big city, that's kind of your choice. I probably wouldn't do it right now. But again, I would probably not want to stay in the big city. We spent a couple days in Quito, and it's not my thing. I don't love it. So, that's kind of a choose your own risk there. You might be fine, you might not. I couldn't tell you. I'm not there. I know that if you're going to come to a smaller town, smaller city, as long as you can get here safely, you'll be fine. So that's kind of my thoughts. There is a curfew in place currently nationwide that is, I believe, 11:30 p.m. to 5 a.m. You're not really out then anyway. You can still travel if you need to. So if you do have a flight, you can still get a taxi. The only thing you want to make sure of is that you have your itinerary, not your itinerary, but probably your flight, all your paperwork. Have all your paperwork. Make many copies, because you'll need one in case you get stopped, which I'm sure you will. And your taxi driver will need one to get back after dropping you off. So you want to make sure that you have a copy to give to him so that you don't have to give away your only copy, because he'll need some way to safely get back through checkpoints to his house or wherever he's going, the airport, what have you. So that's something to keep in mind. that's honestly about it. Now, you could get into all the nitty gritty of the politics and how this is all playing out, which if Chris was here, he would be. Um, I, that's a lot of guessing. I'm not big on that. That's not true. I love guessing at how things are going to go, but in this case, um, I'm not affected by it, and that's kind of an amazing thing. We see a lot of things in other countries happening, and it's very removed, and I'm like, okay, well that's the U.S., that's Canada, that's somewhere else. And then you see all of this crazy news about the country you live in, which is relatively speaking very small, and it feels like it should affect us more. We wake up and there's all these things and these hostages that were taken and prison breaks and what? This is crazy. And then we look around at our little valley and our puppy. We're like, wow, today is exactly like yesterday. Nothing has changed. And honestly, life goes on. So I guess I would caution people in other countries specifically um, to not take the news too seriously. Now, I caution them that no matter what, mainstream media is not something to be blindly trusted. I think most people know that by now. But especially when they're talking about a different country that perhaps they don't fully understand, they don't know the history of, they don't really know the culture or the politics of, you're going to get crazy headlines like there's a civil war breaking out in Ecuador, which is just absolutely not the case. Is it, Toby? It's just not. This is not about civilians. This is about criminals and the government, and that's it. And that's how it's supposed to be. The government, the president is finally starting to really push back against criminals that are causing massive problems in the country. So that's it. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. You can email them. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions specifically, if you're going to be traveling here in the next few months, I'm happy to answer them the best I can. I'll also link you to Jolie Farms, Joe and Lisa. They're down in Vilcabamba, outside of Loja, and they actually did a video yesterday, I think, about the same topic. So that's kind of where I actually heard some of this news for the first time before I sat down last night and started going through some of the stuff. So I'll link their video. They did a good job kind of going through some more of the details than I did. So check them out. Give them some support too, and see their perspective on things as well. So yeah, that's it. Don't worry too much. I think this is good for Ecuador, and we'll see how things play out. But it's still pretty good here in the jungle. We'll see you next time.